Welcome back to Breslov Pirkey Avot. It's been a little while. Today we're going to jump back into it. Chapter 1, Mishnah 15. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. The Mishnah says, Shammai omer, aseh toratecha keva, omer me'at v'aseh arbe, v'heve mekabel et kol ha'adam b'sever panim yafot. Shammai said, make your study of Torah a fixed practice. Say little and do much, and receive every person with a cheerful face. This is a beautiful Mishnah. Let's see what the Breslov insights have to say. Make your study of Torah a fixed practice. Says Reb Nassan, truthfully, time does not exist, although we who live within time may not be able to grasp this concept. Nevertheless, even we can plainly see that time races and flies and disappears. It has no permanence whatsoever, and every second brings us closer to the end. If we contemplate this with a truthful eye, we will never invest any worldly undertaking with the illusion of permanence, nor will we worry from one day to the next. This is a huge, huge concept that I enjoy playing with often, which is the whole concept of time. The other day I was completely enthralled in a conversation, and we looked up and an hour and a half had gone by, and both of us were shocked. We're like, how the heck? It felt like 2 minutes. And then there was another time that I was doing some tedious task, and I looked at the watch, and I thought like an hour went by and like 10 minutes had gone by. It felt like it was eternal. And I realized there that time really is relative, but like I know that that's like an Einstein theory and the theory of relativity, but it really is relative. Like sometimes 60 seconds feel like an hour, and sometimes an hour feels like 60 seconds. So there is something that we can relate to as far as time is concerned, that in as much as a minute has 60 seconds, 60 seconds don't always feel like a minute, right? And what he's saying is if that's true, then this whole concept of like, let me do something that's going to stick around forever, well, there is really no forever. There's only like right now. So, and then again with worries, like, if I know that time has no permanence, then all I'll really think about is what's in front of me right now, because that's the only really thing that I know. Let's continue. This is the meaning of the saying, do not worry about tomorrow, for you never know what the day will bring. By the time tomorrow arrives, you may not be here anymore, and you will have worried over a world that was not yours. Live in the present moment. How many of us are worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, next year, next month, next decade, our grandchildren? Who knows? Who knows how we're going to get there, where we're going to get there? In the last few years, we have been shown how little we can depend on what we thought to be true, right? It started with COVID, how suddenly the whole world just stopped. And now again, the war, we have no idea what's going to happen. But what we do know is the here and now, and what we have now. It doesn't mean to not be investing in making sure or in trying to set up tomorrow in a way that's going to work, but living for tomorrow, living worried about tomorrow, saying that when I get this, I'll be happy, or when this happens, then that, then all you're doing is pushing off your right now, and by the time you look back, you missed out on so much, right? So it's a good point here of like, just be here. Don't worry about what's not here. Anyways, let's continue. Even when we must engage in some form of work for our livelihood, we should do so in passing, without investing it with permanence. As our sages state, make your Torah study primary and your livelihood secondary. Then you will not exchange a world that endures for a world that is transient. They say that one of the biggest accomplishments of the Yetzer Hara is that he speaks to us in first person. Apparently, a few generations ago, the voice inside your head would say to you, you don't want to wake up. You don't want to sin. You don't want to do this. You know, it was an external voice. Sorry, you want to, let me phrase that right. Our evil inclination was speaking from the outside. And his biggest accomplishment now is that he speaks to us from the first person. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, right? It's one of these nuances of like where we're, what perception we have. Another thing is that, the curse of Adam was, by the sweat of your brow shall you eat your food. Meaning his curse was, you have to work for a living. And in our generation, we define ourselves by what we do for a living. So we've basically taken the curse of Adam and turned it into our purpose of life. And the Mishnah is giving us a hint. It says, in order to break the curse, in order to break the fact that your job is your purpose, in other words, the one thing that's not real, how many jobs exist today that didn't exist yesterday and vice versa? Instead of making that the thing that defines who you are, make your soul, your Torah, the things that are permanent, make that define who you are. And then you can cancel the curse of Adam Rishon, which was like, I am not my job, I am not my occupation, I am my soul and my person, and my occupation is there in order for me to pay my bills and to do what I need to do. Moving along. Our sages also state, no one is free except he who engages in Torah study. The Torah helps us refine our powers of perception to the degree that we see through the illusion of time. I'm going to reread that. The Torah helps us refine our powers of perception to the degree that we see through the illusion of time. With the clarity of Torah, we go from servitude to freedom. Meaning, when I invest my time, my space, my energy in something that is bigger than my paycheck, or is bigger than my next shopping spree, but is actually something that is transcended, my soul, then I'm truly free. But when all I do is define myself about my slavery, my job, my hours, my commission, my bank account, then I'm a slave. And we truly do want to be free beings, free to serve life in absolute presence. Anyways, continuing now in Breslov Insights, he says, study of Torah and a cheerful face. Shammai combines the study of Torah with receiving every person with a cheerful face. Sever panim connotes svara, which is reasoning. Therefore, Rabbi Nachman teaches, given the choice, one should always choose to expound a verse that interprets favorably and for the good, rather than select a verse which teaches the opposite. Meaning, when you're looking at people, when you're looking at Torah, when you're looking at life, search for the things in the people, in the Torah, in the life that are positive. Don't search for the things in the people, in the Torah, and in the life that are negative or that teach opposite things. Always try to prove life right and see how much you're going to enjoy life more. And by, cheerful face means that if what you're seeing makes you smile, then you're seeing the right thing. If what you're seeing makes you frown, then you're looking at the wrong thing. Digest of commentaries. Our sages said, let a person be patient like Hillel and not exacting like Shammai. Shammai's attitude did not stem from lack of kindness, but from his concern for the honor of the Torah. Although he was harsh towards those who were slighted the Torah, he was fundamentally kind and benevolent to all, as evidenced by this teaching. Meaning, being strict and stern and having a very set way doesn't mean you have to be mean and rude. You can be kind and benevolent and accept everybody with a smile and not give up on what you believe in the strictness of that which you believe. Continuing, make your study of Torah a fixed practice. That is, make Torah study your first priority and the other endeavors secondary. Say little and do much. Oh my God, the world is full of the opposite. This was the way of Abraham, who hastened to feed his guests in the desert. By contrast, those who are wicked promise much and do not even fulfill their minimal obligations. This was exemplified by Ephron the Hittite, who offered to give Abraham the cave of Machpelah as a burial site for Sarah, saying it was a gesture of friendship, but in the end took 400 pieces of silver as a payment. Lots of people talk a lot. We say what we're going to do. We say that we're this, we're going to do, and at the end of the day, we really don't do anything. And then there are those that really don't say anything, and all they're doing is doing things. And suddenly you find out all these things that this person did, and you're like, I never knew that. Those are the real tzaddikim, the ones that say little and do a lot. Don't try to prove your worth with what you say. Show your worth with what you do. And receive every person with a cheerful face. Our sages teach that when we show others a cheerful face, even if we give them nothing at all, the Torah counts it as if we have conferred upon them the finest gifts in the world. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday about how we create our own reality. And the one way to test how true that is the smile test. Walk into a store, anywhere, and walk in with a huge smile and say, hi! No matter, most of the time, I don't want to say no matter, you're going to be greeted with a smile. And you're also going to see how thrown off people are by your smile. They're going to slowly be like, and smile back. When you greet people with a smile, they're gonna greet you back with a smile. When you greet people with an attitude, well, you're gonna get the same thing. So I think that that's what he's saying, right? Just do a little, say a little, do a lot, and receive everyone happily, because that's the greatest thing that you can do. Time for Torah. Rabbi Nachman once admonished a man who claimed he had no time for Torah study because he was involved in business. The Rebbe told him that business did not exempt him from setting aside some time every day for Torah. The Rebbe explained our sage's teaching as follows. After death, a person is asked, did you set aside time for Torah? The term set aside can also be read as steal, for it is written, he will steal, v'kava, the soul of those who rob them. Thus, excuse me, after death, those who were preoccupied with their business affairs will be asked, did you steal time for Torah? For a person must grab and steal time for Torah study from his daily affairs. I want to tap here on the setting the time. It doesn't say make your study of Torah all day long fixed practice. It says make it a fixed practice. Even if you can afford 10 minutes a day, make it fixed. Those 10 minutes a day are non-negotiable. You see, the second you have fixed things in your life, you're showing your life what your priorities are. We have different times in our lives that we have different availabilities and different means to be able to dedicate more or less time. And that can adjust. But setting a time every day, setting a daily practice to connect to your soul, that's what this mission is talking about. So even if it's only a minute, set a time every day to connect to your soul and fulfill what we're being told in this mitzvah. Finally, a cheerful face. Rav Aaron of Kiblich was a devoted Breslover Chassid who was known for his extraordinary diligence in Torah study and his cheerful demeanor, which was immediately apparent to all those who saw him. Though beset with financial difficulties and other hardships, Rav Aaron always managed to remain happy, singing and dancing at the slightest excuse. Needless to say, his joy was contagious. He once described how after an especially lively dance, the evil inclination had taunted him. Aaron, you are the poorest man in town. You'll have all sorts of problems. Where did you find the joy to dance with such enthusiasm? I borrowed it, he readily admitted it. I borrowed that dance from the better days ahead. And that's a gorgeous thing. Sometimes we don't have it in us to be joyful and happy. What do? Well, we tap in or we borrow the joy that we're sure God is going to send us in the future. We can, if we are positive that we're going to be getting joy and feeling joy, then we attract that joy. And since we know it's going to happen, we can already start to feel it. And the beautiful thing is once we feel joy, then joy follows. So let's make it a point, first of all, to set aside a time, no matter how long it is, as long as it's set, to connect to ourselves, to our soul, to God, and to the Torah. Let's greet everybody with a smile and maybe test the world to see how contagious a smile may actually be. And let's not forget that time is the one thing that's relative. But the here and the now is the one thing that we know we have. Let's not worry about what doesn't exist, and let's take advantage of what does. Have a beautiful day. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.